Hello, everyone. I just would like to, first of all, thank you for coming today and attending uh, my Girl Story, Black Girls and Mental Health event. Also like to thank you for watching the documentary. My name is Tamika Sitchin Spruce, and I am the producer of my girl story. And so just going to just go over some things before we get started. First, if you need closed caption, you can request the captioning at the panel, at the bottom panel of your screen that is available. And also, it's a little bit of, what we're doing today. So I'm going to, give you um, some like history about the film and why it was created. I also have a couple of surveys I would like to share. I will share some resources a little bit later, and then we'll get into the discussion, which is moderated by Dr. Zakia Mabry and the other great panelists. So the reason why I created my girl story is because growing up as a Black young woman with a physical disability, you can't tell by looking at me, but I actually use a wheelchair. I got paralyzed when I was 6 months old, so I have a spinal cord injury. And so just growing up as a woman, with a young woman with a physical disabilities and all the challenges that I faced with like racism from my peers. I went to a predominantly white school, so I counted racism and sexism and things like ableism as well. And it really affected my self-esteem and how I saw myself. And so, so I really, and when I looked at media, I never saw any representation of, Black girls. At that time, it's like Moesha, but because this was during the 90s. I'm a millennial, so shout out to millennials. And so, but, I never saw representation of, girls like me. And then later on, I had siblings. I have three sisters and one brother, and they are Generation Z, which is these girls showcased in the film. And so I saw like what my younger sisters were dealing with, like with the internet and social media, and with the anxiety, with the girls fighting girls, and just all those things that is encompassing in the film. And so I really wanted to, tell stories and give a voice to Black girls in Generation Z and what they're going through. And so I did a casting call around like 2014, and I found the different, we discovered different women, young girls. And I had my friend Eileen Hayes was also in the film industry at the time, so she directed the piece. And so, but then we end up with the two girls at the end of the day of the project. So it kind of changed throughout the documentary. And also the documentary originally was called Redefining Beauty. But as the girls were telling their stories, it was less focused on beauty and more about their personal stories. So that's why I changed it to my girl's story, which fit more appropriate. And that's as a filmmaker or as a documentarian, you have an idea going into it, but then, sometimes the ideas change based on, the subjects that you're interviewing. So you have to be flexible. But I'm really, happy about the piece. And I really want to use this film as a tool to give voice to Black girls and including Black girls with disabilities, because there's not many, as I said before, media representation of Black girls with disabilities. So that's very important to me. So give a voice, but then also I want to build a community. Around, Black girls, because as you saw in the documentary, and as we discussed today, girls go through, a lot of things, and so especially, during this time. And so just really want to create support. I hope that you've, learned some things, and then with this panel discussion that you'll walk away with some tips and tools, and how to help the young women in your life, whether you're an educator or a parent or whatever the case may be. I hope that with this discussion in the film that learn some things. And so we have two surveys. One survey is the My Girl Story survey, and this is particularly for Black girls between 16 and 26 to fill out. So because what we want to do, I'm working with a assistant professor, Anna Hinton, who unfortunately wasn't able to make it today. But Anna Hinton, she's assistant professor, a Black scholar. And so we developed a survey for Black girls to fill out. And at the end of the year, we're going to, or she's going to analyze all the data that we've collected and put it into a My Girl Story report. And so with this report, we're going to, share it with our partners and nonprofits and, just everyone in the community so that we collectively will know how to support girls, young women. So there should be a link in the chat. So if you know, again, a Black girl between 16 and 26, and it's anonymous. So, please have them filled out. Also, towards the end of the event, we will also have a participant survey because I would like to, and we would like to know, your thoughts about the film. If this is something that you could use, if you want to host your own screening, that is available as well. So please indicate your thoughts, and again, whether you want to participate or whether you want to host your own screening, put that in the survey and someone will reach out to you to follow up. And so get ready to share some resources. But before I do that, you welcome, all of you welcome to put in the chat now or throughout the film, your thoughts about the film, what points, touched you and, things of that. So please put that in the chat. And also during the panel discussion, you're welcome to put your questions that you may have in the chat, and Sakaya will try to get to them as she's moderating the discussion. So I guess I'm ready to share a couple of resources with you that support Black girls. Um, Next slide. So there's one organization called Therapy for Black Girls. You may have seen it on different media outlets. It's been on Essence and OWN, and it's been around um, promoted different places, but it's a really great resource for Black women and girls. And so when you go to their website, you can find a therapist in your area. Also, you can listen to the podcast and blogs on mental health. I believe the founder of it is Dr. Joy Harden. And also they have a community that you can join online. And so if you need that resource, you can go to therapyforblackgirls.com. Next slide. Another great organization is African American Policy Forum. It was co-created by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw that coined the term intersectionality. And so African American Policy Forum is really an organization that's in the forefront of issues that affect the African American community. They had kind of, not say coined the term, but they done a major campaign called Say Her Name, which may sound familiar. They also have really been talking about critical race theory. And so they have a really specific section as part of their organization for Black girls and women. And so I definitely recommend checking them out, especially if you're interested into policies. That is, the website is www.aapf.org. Next slide. Another organization that really helps out Black girls as well, that's national, even though I think they're headquartered in Virginia, but it's Girls for Change. And so it's another way of getting Black girls and girls engaged in issues in their community. It helps them, develop self-esteem as they deal with the issues in their community. And so, also with their mental health and overall well-being. So that's another great organization, especially if you're in the Virginia area, for Girls for Change. So you could go to girlsforchange.org. Next slide. Another one that's really interesting is the NAP ministry. It was founded by Tricia Hersey. And so it's an organization to talk about the power of naps. We're always so busy and doing things and stuff. So it really focuses on, resting and sleeping and taking time out for self-care. And so they do numerous things in the community to really, help with community rest. NAP ministry. Well, just Google it. I see the little typo here, but I know it's napministry.org.com. Next slide. Another organization that deal with particularly mental illness is National Alliance of Mental Illness. They're one of the leaders as well, organizations, and they work to educate, advocate, and listen and lead to improve lives of people with mental illness and their loved ones. So they have chapters in each state. And so you can go to NAMI.org to find out a local chapter in your area. Next slide. Another one is Black Mental Health Alliance. So they develop, promote, and sponsor cultural, relevant educational forums, trainings on support of health, mental health, and well-being of Black people in their communities. And so if you need of resources, or if you want to be part of an organization that specifically deal with Black mental health, I definitely recommend them and reaching out. You can find them at blackmentalhealth.com. Next slide. Another organization is Depression and Bipolar Alliance. And so that's another organization that's in the forefront that specifically deal with mood disorders, such as depression and bipolar disorder. And they also have chapters in each state. So you can find them at dpsalliance.org. So that's pretty much what I have for you today as far as the slides. But I do have two people who would like to share with you some information about their organization. And then afterwards, we'll get into the panel discussion where you meet the panelists who also have organizations. But first, we're going to get to a video from one of our partners of the Black Girls in Mental Health event, Black Girls Smile.
As a first generation student, there's a lot of pressure, to be honest, because my parents didn't go to college. Sometimes I think that it makes me feel like I have to be super strong. Hi, Gigi. And that it's weak to fail. It's weak to be emotional, I guess. Or like it's weak to doubt myself. As a Caribbean American, I think it's more so like a society where whatever happens in the house stays in the house. Whatever happens in your family stays in your family.
It's been a journey. My little sister lost her father about a year ago, and it's been super hard for her. And I've been using the tools that I've learned through talking to people from Black Girls Smile to help her dealing with whatever she's going through.
Oh, it looks nice. Black Girls Smile is a nonprofit organization that focuses on empowering the mental health and well-being of young Black women. We do that through mental health literacy programs, intersectionality workshops, and therapy assistance programs. We are a demographic that too often people think of it as resilient. We have known that suicide is on the rise, especially among Black youth. We're losing young Black women who don't have support to focus on their mental health and well-being. So we focus more holistically on how young Black women can lead mentally healthy lives.
To renew every cell in
I
your
feel like Black
body.
Girls Smile has been able to create the space where I'm able to speak about my mental health, or like I have a space where I don't feel alone. So it just creates a community where girls and women alike are able to just support one another and receive the community that they need. Recent reports have come out that have shown that the rates of suicides among young Black women are increasing at a higher rate than any other demographic group. So we are piloting a suicide prevention program where we activate community leaders that can assist us with getting this curriculum out there. I hope that with Black Girls Smile, we become a national name.
Looks like a hard day.
I feel like the program has helped me with learning coping tools with dealing with my issues and also sharing my coping tools with my little sister. My goal in life is to be the person that I needed when I was younger. And to me, that means creating an environment so that females like me could get the support that they need.
My hope for Black girls and Black women is that mental health isn't a topic that is taboo. It'll be a topic that's taken seriously, just as physical health.
I just want everybody to know that like it's okay to not be okay, and you'll get through it eventually.
Thank you. So that is Black Girls Smile. So you can find them at blackgirlssmile.org. And also, I believe we have Dr. Sarita Darby with us today as well. That's here to talk about her organization that's getting ready to go national, Detroit Heals.
Yes, how are you all?
Great. Yes, please share your organization.
Yes, so I am the executive director for Detroit Heals Detroit. My name is Dr. Sarita Darby, she, her pronouns. And I was a teacher about 5 years ago when I started the organization, when I saw a need for us to really combat trauma inside the classroom, but also in community as well. So we did healing circles, and those healing circles led to a publication known as Forbidden Tears, Stories, Poems, Essays of Trauma from the Empress Voice of Unapologetic Black Youth. And the word about their book got around to where they got invited to other schools to do this healing work completely on their own. So I think it's something powerful about youth leading other youth to healing. And they kind of came back to me and was like, you know, Ms. Darby, we love going to these schools and doing this work. We really want to create an after school program out of it. And I said, that sounds amazing. After school program sounds dope. But why not take it a step further and create a nonprofit? Because I honestly believe that if schools uphold systems of racial inequity, then it can be a true source of racial healing. So we have to do this work in communities and in schools. And that's where, you know, I told them they were serious to write me a business plan. And that business plan, it was Monday. That business plan was in my hand on Friday, right? So these young people were serious about healing other youth in Detroit specifically. And I'm excited now that our work is going nationwide and we're building this curriculum to make sure that we're extending this healing even beyond Detroit. So this is what becomes possible when we give youth the tools to solve their own problems, and we give youth really the abilities to really lead these initiatives that should be led by them, such as youth-led healing. Adults shouldn't be deciding for them what healing looks like. They should be deciding that. So yeah, that's kind of how we came about. Our mission is to foster healing justice for other Detroit youth, in which they're able to transform their pain into power while simultaneously combating the systems that perpetuate your trauma in the first place. So we're solving the whole issue and not just half when we're just treating the trauma individuals. So we're really committed to, healing the systems as well. So we consider ourselves a social justice organization that does mental health work because we're committed to solving both of those issues. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So without further ado, I will start the panel discussion. And I just want to quickly reiterate that you can share your thoughts in the chat about the documentary, and also, you can put your questions in the chat as well. So, Dr. Zakiya, I give it to you.
Happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm so happy that we have gathered here today because Tamika has produced this amazing documentary, My Girl Story. Please drop in the chat where you're tuning in from geographically. And we just also want to give a hand clap to Tamika for this awesome documentary. I am Dr. Zakiya Mabry. I coined myself as a diversity triple threat. We talked about intersectionality already. That means when I say diversity triple threat, I'm a Black woman, and I have multiple disabilities. So there's lots of intersections, dimensions to who I am as an individual. I am CEO of B Global Diversity and Inclusion Strategic Planning. I am an author, a speaker, and most of all, I am a diversity and equity and inclusion consultant. I'm very happy to be with you today, and I'm honored that I've been asked to lead this discussion about mental health. We have some really esteemed individuals with us today that's going to share our thoughts about mental health and also going to share about some of the things that they're doing in the community. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we have about 30 minutes. And as Tamika has stated, please drop in the chat any questions you have. We love energy. Raise your hand if you have a question. And this is going to be an impactful discussion. I'm going to go ahead and start introducing. First, we have with us Vivian Anderson. Vivian Anderson is the founder and executive director of Every Black Girl, Inc. Vivian, please join us and tell us more about yourself and your journey to getting to where you are right now in your career.
Hi, yes, I'm the founder and executive director of Every Black Girl, Inc. We are a grassroots community-based advocacy and service organization focused on prevention, intervention, and creation for a world where every Black girl thrives. And because we have so many to speak, we'll build more on each other because I can't box myself in. We do a lot, but I'm ready to be in conversation with everybody. So thank y'all for having me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Thank you, Vivian. And we look forward to hearing more insights from you. And next we have for Rebecca. I'm not going to mess up your last name. Rebecca is the founder and lead facilitator and consultant of Dream Keep Consulting. Rebecca, welcome. And please tell us how to pronounce your full name.
It is Rebecca Anuru.
Okay.
Yes, it looks how it said how it looks. But hey, y'all, Dream Keep Consulting exists to love hood Black kids. I found that honestly, kids that were like me, even in my professional world now, have never been really treated well. So talking like me, bamboos, earrings, all the things, ghetto. I love being who I am, and I'm from the Bronx originally, but I created Dream Keep as a space to help hold organizations and community members accountable to serving hood Black youth well, and holding structural underpinnings of the nonprofit industrial complex accountable to serving youth firstly, and not necessarily telling them they have to assimilate or show up as a different kind of person in the world. So loving hood Black kids unapologetically is kind of my mission.
Yes, Boogie Down Bronx. Okay, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And next, Jada Charlie. Jada is an author of Tear Stained Pages, a diary of a teenager. Welcome, Jada. Please tell us a little more about yourself and how you got to be where you are right now.
Hi, am I unmuted? I just wanted to make sure it was working.
Oh, we can hear you and see you. You're looking fabulous.
Thank you. I wrote Tear Stained Pages when I was 16. I originally wrote it as an outlet because I was going through like a really bad breakup and a transition in my life. In my book, I highlighted my mental health struggles outside of that relationship, just that I'm not feeling seen or heard and having like an internal battle. I never really like talked to anyone about it because I felt, the feelings of shame and weaknesses and things that were highlighted in the documentary, as well as research I did behind my book. And I noticed, once getting separated out that relationship, like a lot of people went through this, my friends, my peers, a lot of people went through it, but it wasn't talked about. So I wanted to open that up, that discussion, because I knew if someone around our age group would open it up, more people will feel comfortable. And I really just wanted to reach and help at least one person with my story so they could maybe not go through what I went through. And also, even if they did,
Hi, can you, okay. Thank you so much, Jada, for sharing that with us. And next, we're going to go to Carrie Gray. Carrie's the only person on the panel that I've actually met face to face and interacted with. Carrie used to work for an organization called USBLN, which then changed their name to Disability. She'll tell you, I can't think of it right now. But Carrie Gray, welcome. Please tell us a little more about you. Carrie is now the Executive Director of NAMD Advocates, and she is a diversity, equity, inclusion educator and a consultant on race and disability inclusion. Carrie, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It is good to be here to support this space, the documentary, everything that's going on. I personally identify as a Black disabled woman, and that identity piece is something that is entwined in everything that I do. I run a consulting firm where we work with different companies and organizations on how to genuinely create space for Black and Brown people with disabilities. That space then translates into opportunities and economic empowerment. That's just what we're about. So I'm excited to always be in community with our people in our community and see how we can continue to open up more space and opportunities. So I'm looking forward to discussing that today.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And so as we're talking about disability inclusion, specifically mental health, let's go ahead and dive right in and talk about the stigma associated with mental health. Now, mental health and then there's mental illness. Some people don't know that there's a difference between the two. So my first question I'm going to open it up with is, how do we normalize the conversation centered around mental health? And go ahead and just jump in. We can just start right there.
I think the easiest way to normalize it is just to talk about it more. I feel like I was doing systems work with systems throughout NYC, so youth serving systems and just like child welfare, mental health, and all those things. And I think one of the things we had to do to address stigma was sometimes we had to label it wellness, sometimes we had to label it other things to make sure people came to our events and stuff, but also like us centering, trying to just have the conversations. I know I often share in any space I facilitate, I have complex PTSD and depression. I will have those things for the rest of my life. And people tend to see me as super strong or super put together. And I'm like, honey, I was probably killed over in my bed like 2 seconds ago, and it's okay. And I think it's one of those things where it's like the more we actually just talk about it, because as someone who supports people just naturally, like, everybody going through it a little bit, even if, especially with the pandemic, as a public health professional, just looking around like and seeing how everyone's brain works differently now. Like, I don't think the same, I don't produce the same, I don't do almost anything the same as I did before COVID happened, and having to support hundreds of people through it changed me. My hair got straighter, like things changed. So I had to really just be open and talk about it. So I do facilitate stuff for Black Girls Smile Inc. actually. And so like, I remember mentioning to the Black girls, like my hair like flattened, my waves left like when COVID started. And they were like, my hair texture changed too. And it was just like, that was just just such a small moment of talking about mental and physical health in the same time, but it can just be that small, just talking about it a lot more often. So for me, it's just like, I feel like as Black people, we tend to be very traumatized and we tend to go through a lot. And I'm just like, I think we just need to keep talking about it. We don't have to fake like we're okay, because we live in a really racist society. Like, it's okay to not be okay. This is trash sometimes. So that's my blunt answer.
And I love your answer. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Vivian, Jade, would anybody else like to jump in? Carrie?
I definitely agree. This is Carrie. Like, so my most prominent, I guess, disabilities are physical, right? So I had cancer when I was younger. I ended up getting an amputation on my right leg. And, when those instances occurred, my family and those around me like immediately jumped in, was like, we're gonna make sure this is handled. And I think that when I notice the ways that invisible disabilities are treated, mental health is treated, there can be some, some disparities between that response. And it's causing like real big impacts on our ability to like move forward in life. So one, I think when I'm looking at your question of how do we normalize mental health, one, I want to really draw awareness around how real it is. The same way I would hope that someone would respond to me of understanding that I'm going through cancer, understanding that there's so much treatment, there's so much, a lifelong of things that I have to navigate. It is its own scenario and situation when it comes to mental health. And so I want to invite like our families, our communities to recognize that and to be a part of that process, to support each other, because mental health prevalence in the Black community in particular is up there, it's high. So I definitely want to recognize that. And I also want to like, the other thing that I'm thinking about is Simone Biles. And I love her. I love her. And Simone Biles, for anyone who has been following this like incredible woman and her story of being an Olympics person, and there's so much to her story. But last year during the Olympics, one of the things that we learned was her dropping out because of mental health. And I can't even get into just all of the amazing, like all of the things that she'd been through, and she allowed herself to say no and say, I have to protect myself right now and in this moment, even though everyone in the world thinks I need to just push through and continue to be Superwoman and just make it happen. And so I love that for her. And I love that for us to not only think about like how everyone else needs to support us, but how we need to support ourselves and staying healthy.
Thank you, Carrie. If everyone, whether you're watching this live or on replay, drop in the chat support, #support, because our tribe is so important. Thank you so much for making that point. And would anyone else like to chime in before we move to the next question?
Yeah, I think, and thank you, because I agree with both women. Thank you again. I don't know, what keeps coming up for me is trauma can create mental illness, right? And I don't want us to collapse everything together. So mental health is one thing. So how do we normalize it? Understanding that the same way we go to church, keep our spirit well, we have to do things to keep our mental being well, right? Mental illness, there are certain diagnoses, there are certain things. And when we talk about specifically, because we're talking about Black girls, I'm not talking about Black women right now. I love all of us. I'm a Black woman. But when we talk about Black girls, the trauma that can lead to mental illness. So I think, like separating some of these conversations so we don't collapse them, but have it be a whole conversation where mental, and Carrie, I love what you said, is because mental wellness is a practice. My trauma, if you actually address my trauma, you can help me with mental wellness before I become mentally ill, right? And so I think there's like buckets we need to talk about separately, but understand how they all intertwine. So the intersectionality of it all that I heard Tamika talk about earlier, because I can have a physical disability, doesn't mean I'm mentally ill. But because of how you respond to me and my physical disability will have me become mentally ill, because we're not addressing wellness. We keep talking about illness. And I want to have a lot of this conversation to be about what does it mean to start creating wellness?
Thank you so much for that. That was a powerful share, Vivian. And as we're looking at the intersectionality and we're talking about triggers, let's dive in and start talking about microaggressions. Now, we can have microaggressions in the workplace. We can have microaggressions in our family, in our sororities, in our church. And so when we're looking at it, I would love for you to share an example of a microaggression. First, let me just give a high level definition of it. It can be something that someone has said or done that is biased. For example, you may have, and it may be conscious or unconscious, you may hear someone say, wow, she's acting so bipolar. Well, that's very offensive. We know what they might be saying is that person might have moods that go up and down, but they don't know if that person has a diagnosis of bipolar or not. And there are a lot of other examples that we can talk about especially being in the Black and brown community. We can talk about a microaggression when you're sitting in a meeting and they ask if someone have an idea and you don't see anyone who looks similar to you, and you raise your hand, say the idea, and it goes on deaf ear, like no one heard you say a word. Then someone who doesn't look like you say the same idea, and it's raved upon. So those type of moments I would love for us to share, because I believe storytelling is a very powerful tool to understanding and changing the narrative. So you share a microaggression that has happened to you recently, or one that just stands out in your life, and how you handled the situation. I think that's really important, about how you handled it. So let's talk about microaggressions now.
Yeah, so I just had this conversation, so I'm jumping right in because it's still on my heart and I have to release. And thank y'all for this space because I get to release. So I was at an award ceremony being honored, and they called my name and they said, she's the CEO of Black Girls Matter. And I was like, well, no, that's not the name of my organization. And it's a Black man introducing me, a white woman who's passing out the awards. And I was like, no, it's Every Black Girl Inc. Yes, all Black girls matter, but the name of my organization, and I would be remiss if I just let that slide. And they was like, well, I'm just reading off the paper. And I was like, ooh, bruh, you didn't even have to come at me like that. And then the white woman came over to me to give me the certificate. She said, you'll be okay. I said, I'm fine, but I got girls in this room, we're not doing this. And so sometimes we look at microaggression, and I think we look at it as like somebody that doesn't look like us, something but like another Black woman, you know, and it's just like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm an older woman, right? Love that Jada's, because I want to hear more from her on the call. I want to hear more from her, but how I still lived through it. And it was the first time in my life, I've done it before. It was the first time I got physically sick because I felt it. I had to smile through it. And then those are the things when I come home and I'm crying at my night and my husband don't figure out why, or I'm like, just pass me a drink or give me something so I can forget it. That's how it impacts us. That can lead to some isms and all the other things, because I'm like, well, no, I was being awarded, but I wasn't really, because you didn't even take time to even see the fullness of me.
Vivian, I'm on mute, clapping, snapping, and everything to your story. Thank you for saying it and sharing it, because hopefully this will be a teachable moment for someone else. And thank you most importantly for your transparency, because we have to start talking about what it looks like. And yes, it can also look like someone who looks very similar to you. But my rule of thought, as I have had more birthdays, Generation X, if you don't start checking people when they're doing it, how can they learn that they're doing something wrong? And with that being said, let's go to a millennial. Let's go to Jada. Do you have an example that you would like to share with us?
It hasn't happened recently, but when I was going through depression, like really bad, people associate depression and like anxiety with being crazy. So, they would throw that as an insult to me, like, oh, you're crazy. Or if I'm
Wait, Jada, we can't hear you. Jada?
okay. I think
Hi, Jada, we're gonna edit this because it's gonna be edited. Can you repeat your answer? Your volume went out.
Okay, can you hear me now? I think I have to hold my computer a certain way.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so it hasn't happened recently, but going through like depression and anxiety, people relate like those mental illnesses as being crazy and or like overly sensitive. So when I would like try to express my feelings or, try to explain, how I'm feeling or why I'm feeling this way, I would be called like crazy or sensitive. And it was very triggering, and it kind of caused me to, sometimes shut down. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I'm just saying that's not healthy. But, I learned that, but that was my mindset due to the response from even people in our community, because they have like a lack of knowledge towards it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And Rebecca, would you like to chime in on this question?
I have so many examples. I think one of my biggest ones is people will assume, like, let's say they just meet me and like they're talking to me and stuff, and they're like, I'm not sure what like assumptions people make when they meet somebody in their true form, but they'll tend to be like, oh, like when they find out that I have education, or they find out, they're like, oh, I thought you were regular. And I'm like, what's wrong with being regular, first off? But second off, like I really don't understand. Or like people will assume like, oh, you went like they, when they find out I went to good schools, they'll be like, oh, you went to a good school. I'm like, oh, baby, you surprised? Like I was recruited by those folks, you know, like I don't got time for this. Like, you know, I actually am, I just turned 30, y'all. I didn't think I was going to be this old ever. So I'm really excited. Like, not for real. Like, life was terrible growing up. And so I just really didn't think I would live this long. And I'm like so delighted, but people will like assume things, like, especially in my late 20s, like people would question my, like, I've had my master's degree since I was 25, and people would assume that I didn't have the knowledge, like I didn't like have the lived experience before I even went to schools to learn the big words for things and stuff. So it's all been a lot. And even in professional world, like I'll get disrespected, even though I have more licensure, I have more like credentials than people 12, 15 years older than me in the field. And they will tell me like, oh, like I'm just like, no, I just do it differently because it doesn't seem to work like that anymore. You know, and people shooting down ideas, and I'm like, the hood taught me if it don't work, I got to do something else. And so I always run into these problems in professional spaces in general. And so that's why I have my own consulting firm now. But like, just thinking about how in the field, if a white person is performing mediocrely, they will get the same pay as me. They will get the same opportunities as me, more actually, and things like that. And so these are things that I've always been aware of, or just to hear other Black folks talk about hood Black people in negative ways, like, oh, those people are ignorant or something like that. And I'm like, this is structural racism. Like, I don't actually have time for this. Like y'all wouldn't have respected my mother. My mother didn't graduate from high school. She had 2 kids by the time she was 19. I'm her 4th kid, actually, and all this stuff. So like, I tend to just think about how like respect or respectability politics, like, it's just in everything. And knowing that I center youth that are told you need to act different, you need to show up differently to be respected, when it's like, we could just respect them because they exist. So I always have to, like, I feel like my whole life, I'm just walking through a lot of microaggressions, which kind of contributes to the depression. But it's been a lot of just like, whew, like recenter, recalibrate, let's get through this. But I feel like as someone that's committed to the hood, like I'm always going to be running into stuff. Like it doesn't even, I breathe wrong every day because I'm too dark, too big, too Black, too many things going on where people will find a way to attack me, or too ghetto. And I love being ghetto. I don't want to be nothing else. And so it's just those things where I'm just like, oh, wow, another day. So I have a lot of examples, and I'm sorry, y'all, for taking so much space up.
Don't ever apologize, my sister, for taking up space. People are learning from your lived experiences and the words that you say. Remember, words do have power. And so we're going to now talk about the roles that mentors and sponsors have played in your life, because I have learned that it can be very impactful. So a mentor is someone who can show you some of the things that they've gone through in life and maybe teach you how to get there at a quicker rate. And then maybe a sponsor, and someone, that person may be in your field or not in your field. Let's just put that there. But then also a sponsor is someone who has influence and can speak up for you and nominate you when you're not even in the room. So please just think, this is a time when also you can give a shout out to a mentor in your life, but please tell us about the power and impact that a particular mentor has had on in your life, or a sponsor and how that's critical that young women of color, especially Black girls, have mentors and sponsors. And we'll pass this to Carrie first.
Yes, I'm blessed where I've had so many big sisters, so many mentors, so many folks who have just adopted me over the years. And I have that type of personality where I love community, I love people. So I'd be like, come adopt me. Life be hard out here. It'd be all types of things going on. Let's build together. I'm with that. So I was almost kind of surprised. I was having a conversation. I remember one time when I was in college, I was just talking to my roommates about some of the different people, some of our professors and just folks. And one of my roommates, she was like, I've never had a mentor before. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. She was just like, I guess her shy kind of personality, or like she's always surrounded by people, she's incredible, but like really having someone that she can look at in that sense and call on, because it's like, I need guidance, I need wisdoms, I need somebody to help speak for me, because it's just something that I've never experienced before. And that really touched me in that moment to like say out loud to people, like seek those types of relationships out. I've been in all types of jams where it's like, I'm trying to figure out, is this a good job? Not even do I need a job, because that's never a question. But not every job, not every boss, not every manager, not every supervisor is good for you. And so I've had to really have real conversations around, I have some autonomy over my life. I have some options here. I know a vision has been placed on me for what I'm trying to build, and I need somebody who can give me direction, who can help me decipher, is this the move or not? So I've been really blessed that year after year after year, I've seen women bosses, I've seen women CEOs, I've seen, folks who can talk to me spiritually, mentally, all types of things. So that's just something I can say for me. It has been fundamental to being a business owner, to being the types of things that I've been in, and I highly encourage it for folks.
Thank you, Carrie, so much for that answer. Would anybody else like to chime in?
Okay, I didn't want to talk over anyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jada. Oh, no, we can't hear you right now, Jada. Say something again. Jada?
Okay, I can hear you right here. I think I'm gonna have to hold it at this angle.
Okay.
Or for my phone. But I would say I had a lot of mentors, but my most consistent one would be my mom. Lately, the past 2 years of my life, she has she had to step out of mom mode, because sometimes I was going through things and I didn't really need the overbearing love, but I kind of needed like the truth. And she would like let me know my worth, and she always advocated for me when I couldn't speak for myself. Or
Jada, it froze. We're going to go ahead and pivot and move and go circle. Oh, Jada, you said when you couldn't speak for yourself, your mom was there to advocate and speak for you. That's where we last heard you say.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, she did that. Like, she stepped out of her comfort zone many times, because she always is used to reacting as my mom. But and she sees me as her strong kid, her strong daughter. I'm the oldest, and then I have 2 little brothers. So she didn't necessary, like she always expected me to like speak up for myself. That's how I was raised. But you know, the last couple years I wasn't able to in situations, and I appreciate her for that. And she also speaks life into me when I have self-doubts or like self-esteem issues, and she continues like words of affirmation, or you know, do like baths or, you know, meditation sessions with me or anything just to uplift me and to get me to see that this is not the end. You know, sometimes it's not that deep, as she would say. And, you know, it's like I'm bigger and my life is bigger than the circumstances that I'm going through right now.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And thank you to your mother. And Vivian, yes, go ahead, jump right in.
Yeah, because I've had like, so one of the things been, and I'm the elder on the call, right? So the intergenerational conversation is really heartwarming for me, because specifically when you say how it leads us to our work, my mentors are the girls. They have poured so much life into me, even when I didn't see myself. I show up and I'm going to show up and I'm like, what do you need? What do you need? And to have girls stop and say, no, Miss Vivian, what do you need? And when I'm like, oh, I need help in what kind of program y'all want? I want to like do it. But I think one of the things that's happened in my life in the last like maybe 15 years or so, but especially how I got started in my work when we saw a young girl assaulted by a school resource officer. And I relocated my life to the South to support her and other girls in the South. And there are times when I'm just sitting with them saying, like, I'm scared. I don't know what to do for y'all. And they're like, it don't make you less than. Dr. Rebecca, I just appreciate you so much, because I'm always caught up in a conversation that I get scared about. I don't have all the academia. I have my lived experience. I have my trauma. I have all my stuff, but I don't have all these things. And then they want you to have all these things. But then when I see somebody like Jada, where I'm like, girl, you done already wrote a book. Can you teach me? Can you teach me? Right? And so I think those are the mentors that I look to, even though there are some women and there's some people who have guided me in my life. But for the work I do right now, I actually look for the girls and I want to keep showing up for them. But I'm so grateful that they never look at me as less than. They accept me as my whole being with all the knowledge that I don't know, because they told me, don't you ever touch the social media platforms again, because you don't know how to tweet, you don't know how to Instagram, you don't know how to Facebook, you don't know how to do nothing, Miss Vivian. But they like, but we got you. And that's mentorship to me. So it's like a give and receive, and it's a relationship. And that's how I look at building mentors now, because Jada don't even know she my new mentor.
Boom, there it is. You heard it, Jada. You have a new mentee. And I love your answer. And Rebecca, I would love to get your perspective on this conversation.
Yeah, so I feel like as someone who's had to do a lot of stuff on my own, like, and also do a lot of stuff that's not like done by people around me, like I just kind of take knowledge as it comes. So anybody, like, you know, I have 13 nieces and nephews. And so I've been an auntie since I was 5 years old. I love them babies more than life. And so they teach me everything. Like they teach me so much about how like I'm gonna be principled and like doing better in the world and choosing better in the world. I feel like the 80s and 90s kind of wiped out a lot of my family members from whether it was just stress-related deaths or maternal mortality. I lost my mother when I was 2 days old, whether it was just a whole bunch of other chaotic things. And I feel like in the way we was raised, it was just like, be hard. Like you gotta look to yourself. Like other teens in my life and stuff, folks would tell me when I was younger, like, you gotta focus on you, like don't be looking around. So for me, I actually just look to myself for a lot, but like love everybody. So like, since I'm a supporter of other people naturally, it kind of is just a reciprocal thing. So I have plenty of mamas and plenty of aunties and plenty of nieces and nephews, and you know, like when I've taught, like I've had those students be like, Ms. Nuru, I'm gonna be a student forever. I'm your kid. And I'm like, are you? I don't have any yet. But I think it's just like, I think if you are a lover of life, I think that the mentoring and the loving and the caring becomes very easy to just give and receive. So for me, it's everybody and also just myself, because I think I follow the Yoruba faith of Ifa, and it's just like, I think like that returning to your Ori, that checking in with yourself, your higher self, and just being like, am I moving how I want to move? I just recently got accepted into my PsyD program, so I'll be getting my Doctor of Psychology and Organizational Psychology from Rutgers. And I just thank you. I recently just got admitted, but I remember I sent the letters, like the statements to two of my best friends, and I told them, yo, I'm not sending this for feedback. I'm sending this so that you see it. But like, baby, this is getting me in. Like, we're done. Like, after sitting on that for 2 months and crying and sleeping and just like, I wrote about the hood and got into school when they told me I needed to polish up before. And like, I was just like, ha, yes. So I'm staying true to me. And all of the struggles that my families have known over the generations. So for me, I'm just like, that commitment and like that choosing has been such a stubborn pursuit for me, but it's been worth it in every way. But it is like, I got to kick down this door and this ceiling and stuff and trying to figure that out. So I've been feeling like I got to return back to myself and learn my boundaries and do all of that stuff. So I think I'm my biggest mentor right now, because I'm like, oh no, but I'm also reaching out to people when I need help. And I think that's a big sign too. That took a lot of work to get to that place after feeling so alone in the world for a long time. So it's everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I just have to jump in. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Go ahead.
Yo, Rebecca, for real, that was a word. So that's going to lead us into our Sunday sermon. That was a word. Because one of the things is that I always tell our young people, don't look for the world outside of you, because sometimes it won't come. So one of the things you just said is the work that we do is to build it within ourselves first. And it's to battle that thing inside of us. And girl, we got to talk on a offside about other Yoruba. We'll talk. And so, yes, when we talk about how, because mental illness in our whole physical being, as we talk about, let's like wrap it back around, mental wellness, mental illness, all these things, spirituality, not religion, but our spirits have to be in it. And so when we talk about we are mind, body, and spirit, so my mental, my body, my spirit, those things come into play. And oftentimes we've been so doctrinized with religion versus what spirit looks like, that a child doesn't have the opportunity to go into themselves and love themselves, because we keep telling them they got to look for somebody else and they got to look like this person and be like this person, versus like, no, you stand strong in who you are. You know who you are, because from which you came, can't nobody take. And one day somebody gonna be emulating you, and ain't nobody gonna be able to take it away from you. But you gotta stand in that. And it's not, we don't want another Michelle Obama. We want another Jada. We just want Jada to be Jada without trying to emulate everybody else. And we want every child to be able to stand in that way. And that's where our stuff starts to happen, because we have these mind games playing with us like, well, I'm whole, perfect, and complete. That's what you said. But now you're telling me I need to do A, B, or C. And so I'm going to stop there. But Rebecca, you just said a whole
you preaching. You are preaching, Vivian. Thank you. Keep on preaching. We need to hear that. We need to feel it in our spirit. Mindset is everything. And part of our mindset, what contributes to our mindset, is our tribe. Who do we surround ourselves with? Who is pouring into us? Who are we pouring into? And sometimes you will hear things that are not really filling your spirit. So what do you have to do? You have to decide, are you going to stay? Because people come into your life for a reason, season, or for a lifetime, right? Amen. Can I get an amen? I learned that very early in life. My first job was working on post in Germany. My dad was in the military as a chaplain's assistant aide. That's what was my job. And that's when I first heard that message that people come into your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. So my question next to everybody on this illustrious panel is, when you have people in your life who are not breathing, speaking life into you, Please tell us now, being the women that you are, how do you navigate that situation? I'm going to give you an example because I like examples, I like storytelling. So most recently, an organization that I hold dear to my heart is Mental Health Awareness Month. I volunteered and said, hey, I want to do this panel. I've been doing this yearly, blah, 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 blah. The person said, like Vivian was saying, you don't have those potentials. You may have a PhD, but it's not in psychology, mental health, or anything like that. So Zakia, I don't think you're qualified. So I said exactly what Vivian said. I have life experience. I guarantee you I have life experience to talk about mental health, and I've been doing this exceedingly well. Long story short, it did not select me to be a part of the panel or to lead the panel. I was hurt, but in my mind, I said, Zakia, don't be hurt. They have some growth that they need to do and work out inside themselves. And that's might not be where your ministry is. So perhaps you have to evaluate whether you want to still be in that situation or not. So my question to you, who is in your tribe? How do you navigate situations where people are speaking not life into you? And that is the question. And I see I'm reading facial expressions, so I'm going to ask for Rebecca to jump in head first into that question.
Child. I had to think about this one. I feel like when I'm strong on my boundaries right now. So I will remove myself from whatever situation that is not serving me. For example, I left a day job that I had for 3 years because I was really supporting community and I was there for community, but the racial dynamics of that job just were tearing on my body. Like I was like, it's between me and you, honey, and I'd rather be broke on the floor than keep doing this. So for me, it's just like at this point in my life, I've just learned like I might just have to remove myself. And I think that's like if everybody around me is getting a come up but me, how we sucking for me, like, and I am my cup empty. I don't like this. So I've learned now to just be like, oh, I gotta go. I'm gonna just pack me up and go. So I think that's like my go-to right now, because like there are spaces where I'm celebrated, where I'm loved and adored, and I deserve to be in those spaces. And so once I realize people show themselves, I'm just like, all right, got a blast. I gotta go. I get that joke from my niece because she loved Jimmy Neutron when she was little. So she always just says, got a blast. And I was just like, yeah, I gotta go. So I think that's my biggest thing. Like, and I think that's from my ancestors. I'm definitely the descendant of field, formerly enslaved people. And so like just that running mentality that like, oh, gotta get out of here. Like this is not working for me. Like I swallow what I need to swallow, but I also get on when I need to get on. So I think that's my answer.
Thank you, Rebecca. Carrie, jump in.
Yes, I definitely want to co-sign the whole, like, sometimes you just got to let people go. And, it can be hard, it can be challenging, but I can tell you it can also be really beautiful. And like the way that your energy can just soak in some sunshine and just find some new things and revelations and people, like I tell you, it can be better on the other side. So I love affirming boundaries. I love affirming, like sometimes, you just got to let some folks go. I think what I would add to the conversation is really considering how relationships will adjust and transform over time. I know for me, I would fight it at times. I would really fight, like I'm so close to this person, but they're not breathing life into me right now. We're not in a good place in our relationship. And, for me, there would be certain times and situations where I had to learn, like we have grown apart in some ways, and it's okay to readjust and realign. Here's how we fit. And here are areas in our life where we might not want to share as much as we used to share anymore. And that's okay. I would even name that a lot of my work surrounds workplace dynamics. And I think that's a really good example of this, because sometimes you can't always just drop a coworker. You can't always just drop a partner or a community member or somebody in your network. Like it just, you're still showing up and you got to do what you got to do. And in those situations, I found the readjustment of how we operate together to be incredibly fruitful, because I know me, I know how I am, and I don't want to be that person who catches an attitude because you're not breathing life into my life. And now I'm showing up every day and there's this thing going on. So I was like, okay, Carrie, I'm a professional. I'm a lot of amazing different things. And I don't want anybody or anything to feel like they have some type of control on your energy. So I had to do it internally in myself and just think about how can we position ourselves, our conversations, our dynamics, our flow in a way that does genuinely work, and sometimes put a little distance in the other areas. I think to me that is growth.
It is growth. Thank you, Carrie. Jada, and then we're going to go to Vivian. Jada,
Okay,
please talk about boundaries. Yes.
Okay, so I used to have trouble with this a lot because it seemed like I had more loyalty to like people and jobs than myself. Like I would burn myself out covering everybody's shift or helping or doing stuff that wasn't even in my job description to help, other people. And it left me empty in the end and drained and, sad, hurt, whatever the situation was. So I would say just like navigating the pros and cons, like what is this gonna do for me? And how is it gonna benefit me in my life in the long run? Like I used to have problems like, I want to say I would see the future or the potential a situation could have, and I would cling to that instead of the present, what is showing me to be now. So I would say definitely stay in the present and think like, okay, this is how it is now. If it never changes, what do you want to do? Will you be okay with this for the rest of your life? Or do you have to, swallow that hard pill and make a decision now? So definitely boundaries are important, and just doing what's best for you, not thinking about anyone else. Because at the end of the day, you have to live your life. Can't no one else live it for you? And you have to be comfortable with your life because you're the only one that can live it.
Powerful, powerful. Live your life. Live your life in the chat, please. Live your life. And we're going to toss the mats over to Vivian. Go ahead, sis.
First of all, baby girl and I'm sorry, that's just that's the elder privilege I get to have. She just gave us word, right? Like, and a child should lead them. Did you hear what she said, right? And so I want to take it back to the question you asked around people are brought into our lives for reasons, season, or lifetimes. I think we often forget we're often brought into people's lives for a reason, season, or lifetime. And so we're always looking on the other side of it. And so like what I had to learn is I had to tackle my abandonment issues. So I didn't leave people no matter what was happening. I'm showing up. And I think it was Carrie that kept saying like, ain't nobody pouring into me. But I realized as much as I was given, I'm not really pouring into them authentically because I'm allowing them to do some stuff. So I'm enabling behavior. And then I had to realize not just them being in my lifetime, like my life for a reason, season, or lifetime, what I'm in their life for a reason, season, lifetime, and when is the time. And so y'all know I love me some Beyonce and the Winans. I do. What's the good and goodbye? And we always, so I had to practice that because I was like, no, I can't say goodbye because I remember when people just left me. And it was like, what's the difference of leaving and saying goodbye, job well done. We all get to go, but we all don't get to go on the same bus. I'll see you on the other side when you decide to get there, not on my timeline. And then I keep studying my timeline because I want to stay here. But I had to realize, oh, here was my reason, season, or lifetime. And then that's how, so my tribe, like my best friend, we've been friends for over 40 years now. See, so I'm telling y'all, I'm the elder of the group, 40 years. We don't talk every day. But when I tell you I can pick up the phone, call her tomorrow, she can pick up the phone and call me. We there. Tribe don't mean just, oh, we go out to the club or we just kick it all the time. Tribe means who's going to hold you, even if y'all never see each other again in life. You got somebody that's going to remind you to get that back straight, right? And so that's how I see it. And like what Jada was saying around like, what's my vision? What's my vision for my life? And are the choices I'm making in a line? If I'm making choices to like please other people, that takes me away from my vision. And like, I love what she said just about Stan. Does this work for me? It ain't nothing against you, but does this work for me? And so that's what I started realizing. So it's not just about who are the people that's supposed to be in my life, who are the lives I'm supposed to be around for that season, reason, and lifetime.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question, one of my, we only have a couple left, is what does showing up as your authentic self look like? And you can talk about in your personal life, again, with organizations, around your family, or you can talk about in a career, but just give us an overall of what does it mean to show up as your authentic self?
I think for me, it first like acknowledges the challenges around that. You know, so one of the things I love about this space and this group is everyone talks about like, we love our dress, we love our style, we love our melanin, we love our things that make sense to our culture. And when you show up to white dominated industries, able-bodied dominated industries and things to that nature, it can put you in a position to say, okay, maybe I should just fit in with everybody else. And so when I first think about what does it mean to be authentic and bring your authentic self, it is acknowledging that you are often or many times going to be in spaces, environments, and groups that will not look like you, will not sound like you, will not share that culture, and can add this genuine pressure to change who you are. And I think for me, what is so loving about this space and this conversation is a reminder like, girl, you ain't got to do that. You don't. I can't define what authentic may mean for you, but for me, it's you gonna hear Southside of Longview, Texas. You gonna see I change my hair up every couple months. You gonna see a couple of things about the ways that I talk about the experiences of people with disabilities is going to be centered on the people of color with disabilities. And so those things are gonna come to the table that just don't turn off because I'm in a space where no one else might not get that. So I love it. I'm here for it. Be you every single day is what I say.
Ooh, go Carrie, with our hair, switching it up, our dialect, and just truly bring out who we are and be unapologetically Zakia, Carrie, Rebecca, Jada, Vivian, Kamika, we can all show up as who we are. And I appreciate your answer, sister. Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
I feel like choosing what your armor is and sticking to it. Like, you know, some people need, like I need my acrylics, I need my bamboos, I need my lip gloss. I'm not gonna be all right if my eyebrows ain't done, if my waves not popping. Y'all can't see the waves right now, but I promise you they popping. Blame my camera. But like I know those are the things that help me to stand in that. Cause like when I'm in my worst depression, like I can sit in, okay, well, you like being clean, honey. You like feeling good. Like, so you're going to have to figure this out, you know. But also just like realizing that, you know, somebody always going to have something to say. Even when you have the things that they are saying that they require to respect you. If they've decided that they don't want to respect you, they've just decided that, and that ain't got nothing to do with you. And I think learning that has been a really difficult lesson for me. Like it took a very long time to get out of trying to prove that I deserve my life, prove that I deserved the good things that could come to me, prove that I just needed to exist. I felt like for a long time since I was fighting for survival, that was it for a long time. So I think I just had to decide, like, this is what I respect. Like, I respect my culture. I respect my language. I do not talk like this on a regular basis. I definitely talk a little different when I'm not in my professional role. And I just like feel like, but that's my comfort, and knowing what my comfort is, knowing what feels good for me has been a deciding factor in helping me feel good about where I'm at in my life. Because like, all right, am I making me, my mama, and my granddaddy proud? All right, me and my ancestors is good. Like, then somebody else might be like, oh, well, that's not how you should do that. it don't even matter, baby. We good over here, you know? So I think it's just like deciding what my armor is and deciding that like, this is how I want to show up in the world. This is what feels good for me. Like I used to have a lot of hair and I had to cut it off just because life was doing things. But like, people had something to say and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like still gonna be who I am right now. And I love my hair. Like, you know, it was great. But I also was just like, well, I get touched a lot less now. Like I like being who I am. Like, you know, a little bit of like bad energy follows me a little bit. Like, oh, I put my goodness on today, you know. So I feel like once I decided like what I wanted for me, and just very stubbornly was just like, well, people always gonna have something to say no matter what I do. So I'm gonna let y'all say it, but I'm gonna just do me. And I think that's the best way to be showing up in the world unapologetically. In general, just this is my story. This is what I've been through. This is how I'm honoring myself and keeping it pushing from there.
Thank you so much. And our last question that I'm going to pose to each one of you is, what is one lesson or key takeaway from watching My Girl Story?
Hey, I'm sorry, I had to run and do some stuff. One of my key takeaways, and this is something where I think when we talk about young people, because I'm always go back to Black girls. So I think it was Shekinah's story. And Rebecca lended to it, and that's a whole nother conversation. But when we talk about ancestral trauma or generational trauma, so what she was living through, having the same disease her mom had, and what her mom was carrying, we can't do everything with Shekinah if we haven't done mom's mental well-being, right? And so a lot of times we always go straight to the kids and say, oh, we have to fix them, we got to take care of this. But there are things with adults that we really have to pay attention to for us to get well, so our kids can be well, because oftentimes our kids are going to show us the way. So that was one of the things that came away from me. And I wrote on our paper as I was watching a documentary, listen. Yes, we are, you know, y'all call us all experts on this, the talk, but sometimes it's just listen. And the other young girl, with her and her grandfather, he said he had to train people to stop talking at her and to listen. And I think that's something that needs to keep being said. Listen, because yes, I you know, I have a God source, and a child shall lead them. And when we look at all the social justice movements, and it was young people. And so I'm very much, that's why I was like, my mentors have been young people, because I've lived my life. Like I've lived some life. I've had a whole lot of experience. I'm a survivor, sexual, physical abuse, assault, rape, all the things, right? It was young people that made me feel comfortable in telling my truth, because I don't even speak about those things. But that trauma led to how I interact with them, because I became one of those people that was like, oh, you got to do this, and that. And I said, no, that's your stuff. You got to deal with your stuff. You can't put your stuff on these kids. They got another way they're going to move with it. You deal with your stuff and you can show up more. So I have this new thing. It's time to respond responsibly, not just be in reaction to everything we're seeing happen. And so I learned that I was living in a lot of reaction to my stuff, but I wasn't responding responsibly to what they needed. And it's listen. And so that's the thing that came out a lot for me today. Even listening to everybody, listen.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And now we're going to go to Jada. What were some of your key takeaways from watching the documentary?
I actually took away that you can't always look at a person of their title in your life. Like I can't always look at my mom as my mom. She's a human too. Watching her, my mom was the one that did the workshop with the bags, and Monet made a comment like on how much her life got better after the workshop. And I'm looking like, dang, that's my mom. But then I saw her as not my mom, but like a human that's helping people, and how impactful it can be, and knowing her personally and what she went through and how she went out despite what she goes through on a regular and made a difference in someone else's life. So, definitely looking at people more than like grandma, grandpa, dad, mom, but looking at them as human as well.
Yes, even our parents, our mentors, our therapists, our practitioners, they all have lived experiences too. So we just have to practice kindness and just respect each other's differences and figure out what similarities we have. I love that, Jada. Thank you for sharing. And we're going to go to Carrie, and then we're going to go to Rebecca.
Yeah, definitely so many lessons from the documentary. The one that I keep coming back to is how trauma impacts the way that we trust people, which then impacts the relationships that we build or don't build along the way. Like I keep thinking about the questions that the young women, the girls in the documentary would have about everybody in their life. They have questions about family members, they would have questions about friends, they would have questions about future employers, and they were all grounded in very traumatic experiences of who looked out for them, who was kind to them, who protected them or not, and just recognizing how rough this world can be. So I think it had, just that realization had me thinking a lot, but also wanting to investigate deeper in myself and those around me of how do we regain trust after you've gone through those types of situations time and time again. So I'm not saying that in the sense that I immediately have an exact answer, but I'm saying I think that this documentary is incredibly impactful and definitely shows a lens. It doesn't matter where you're at in your life, how young or how much of an elder you may be, but that exploration of, are you good? Are you healing? Are you able to build good relationship with yourself and those around you? I think is something that would help our community significantly.
And thank you so much, Gary. So I think the moment that really stood out to me was, and I think it was Monet, she was reflecting on being angry about a lot of stuff and needing to let it go. But like, my biggest thing is like with complex PTSD, what does letting it go mean when you have these memories that can put you back exactly in that same spot? There are certain things that happen to me that I will always be angry about, that I will always have rage about, that I will never be okay with. Like being assaulted when I was younger, and molested and things like that. Like I'm always going to be angry about that. There's no part of forgiveness that I need to offer that. There's nothing like, and I have to, and I think like just listening to her just felt so valid for me because like I'm a trauma specialist, like, so I help folks like understand the concept of trauma, help workforces and stuff and people that work with trauma understand trauma better. And so I've always thought about how trauma is a transformation. There's a you before the trauma and there's a you after the trauma. And I think we focus so much on, oh, this impacts me negatively, and we lose the growth spots because I still want to love who I am after the trauma. I still want to honor who I am after I know the things about the world that I know because I've been through these certain traumas. I'm the result of a domestically violent relationship. And so like knowing that and like still finding ways to love myself, feeling like I chose the best parts of my parents. And that's what I'm leaving the rest. And so I think Monet just sitting there and just thinking about like what it meant to let it go. And like, that's a question I'm going to have for the rest of my life. Like I'm always going to be, what does letting it go mean right now? Like honoring that the abuse and neglect that I went through in my family is not actively happening right now, but I see the remnants. How do I deal with those triggers? How do I move through those things? And I will be grappling with that forever. And I think like even as an ancestor, I'll think about that stuff like, ooh, how could I move a little different? How can I help my descendants move a little different and stuff? And so I think I'm constantly trying to think of the impact that I have on folks and thinking about like how to hold space for people so that they feel safe enough to say, I can't let it go right now. That's not where I'm at. I'm in the muck. I am in the quicksand. I am in the swamp. And that's okay. Like I be in swamps for years. Like I feel terrible about this and I'm going to feel wild about this until I process it enough for myself. And I thought like, just like, and I know at the end of the workshop, it was all like, oh, this is just the first step, you know? But like, it's okay if that's a lifetime of work. And I felt like that's where that sat with me. And I just felt so seen just listening to her thoughts because I was a very angry teenager. Righteously so, though. I'm not even mad at myself for being as angry as I was because the world was walling on me. And I really don't have a nice way to say that. And so like, I was just like, oh, just going through it daily. And so having to learn to love myself through that took a lot of work and still working on it. And so I just wanted to like, I think that's what really was sitting with me because it just helped me feel so seen and validated my younger self because my younger self was dealing with a lot of adult problems. And so, yeah.
I can definitely relate to you. I too have been sexually assaulted. It was at a young age, which has introduced me to my lifetime of therapy, self-work, reflection, self-care, all those different things. And giving yourself grace is one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. And I just say that we need to all collectively continue to do the work, do the work, do the work. And like it was said in the beginning of this panel discussion, it is certainly okay not to be okay. I am Dr. Zakia Mabry, and I am so blessed that I was afforded the opportunity to lead this panel discussion with each one of you. And it's my sincere hope and prayer that something was said or done today that has triggered you to continue to be a part of our journey in stopping up the stigma of mental health. Please share and like this video because knowledge is power and sharing is caring. And with that being said, we have a survey for you to complete, and I'm going to pass the mic back over to the curator of this beautiful space, Tamika, for some closing remarks. Remember, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and do your part. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you to our panelists, Rebecca, Carrie, and Jada. Thank you to our partners, Everyday Black Girl Inc., NAMD Advocates, Michigan Michigan Developmental Disability Council, just so many. Thank you for supporting this event. I know there was a question about where can you learn more about Black women with disabilities. So you can definitely follow Carrie. She's, a great person, Carrie Gray, to follow. She's in the forefront of it. Dr. Zakia, as well as far as with mental illness. I recommend all the panelists because they all deal with mental health. So definitely, look them up in their organizations. I myself, I am a disability justice activist for over 15 years. And so you feel free to reach out to me. I can be found on Facebook and LinkedIn at Tamika Citrus Spruce. And I was just saying, on Divas with Disabilities Project, that's another one that deals with Black women with disabilities and changing images. There's National Black Disability Coalition. That's another one that's founded by Jane Dunham. So, and then just Google resources as well. So, thank you for those little bit over 1:30. I definitely appreciate all of you. I would like for you all to please fill out the survey. And definitely if you are interested in hosting your own screening and discussion that is available. So please indicate that in the survey. I will follow up in the email with the recording and also the resources that's available. And we're going to end it today by a song that's specifically produced for this documentary One Me that was done by my sister Angelique Sitchin, and you will also see during the song my girl story contact information. Thank you very much and have a great day. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, group pic. I'm sorry, forgot about that. If we can, if you don't mind, we all can turn on our pictures and take a quick group pic of everyone if you feel comfortable doing so. And I guess, Victoria, you can take the picture.
I am here, so I'm just trying to get everyone who's turned their camera.
Let me know
Thus far.
you took it.
Yes, so just a moment. Just a moment. Hold still. All right. Okay, I'm gonna do a countdown. 3, 2, and 1. Stay there, please. Okay, I'm gonna do one more. Just a moment. Let me drop that picture. All right, one more. 3, 2, and let's make sure nobody else turned the camera on that I missed. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Hold it. Excellent. That is it. So Tamika, I hand it back over to you to give some final words, and then we will play the music and get out of here.
Okay, yeah, you can pull up the music and contact information. Also, please put, Sherry did the survey in the chat. Please fill it out so we know how well we did today. Thank you.
So what if my skin is chocolate covered and my ain't huge like my attitude? I'm just doing me without a choice, so I do. And you know we're too grown to be fighting. I got my issues, I try to hide it. I'm just being me, it's just something I do to you. Mama said there'll be days like this when I ought to be different, I just gotta be different. If you don't like it, I don't want my people of it. If you ain't with it, you ain't gotta be with it. I got my own style. Yeah. I'm one of a kind. Yeah. I ride me just fine. Be one me. I got my own style. Ooh, yeah. I'm one of a kind. Yeah. I ride me just fine. Be one me. Sometimes it feels like my very best is oh so different. And can't you tell? Haters hating me without a choice, so they do. And it's okay if your swag is different, long as you know respect make a difference. So come correct when you do. Mama said there'll be days like this when I ought to be different, I just gotta be different. If you don't like it, I don't want my people of it. If you ain't with it, you ain't gotta be with it. I got my own style. Yeah. I'm one of a kind. Yeah. I ride me just fine. Be one me. I got my own style. Yeah. I'm one of a kind. Yeah. I ride me just fine. Be one me. All my ladies, so you feel me? Throw your hands up. Throw your hands up. All my ladies, so you feel me? Throw your hands up. Throw your hands up. 5, 4, 3, 2. And one me.